Hi, my name is Brittney-Hien, and I'm going to be presenting over consistency of new research with a 2006 sleep medicine practice parameter for young children. So just a bit of background, clinical practice guidelines are systematic reviews from the scientific literature for specific diagnosis and treatment modalities. They provide important guidelines for practitioners and patients. The practice guideline is not updated regularly. It makes the readers unaware of the new changes and developments. We identified a practice guideline that was not been updated since 2006, and that was the American Academy of Sleep Medicine's practice parameters for behavioral treatment of bedtime problems and night wakings in infants and young children. To determine whether the clinical trials and published research since 2006 remain consistent or conflict, we completed a systematic review. So for methods, we constructed a research question based on guideline recommendations, developed search strings, searched clinicaltrials.gov, the WHO, International Clinical Trials Registry Platform, and PubMed. Studies were screened for eligibility and exclusion criteria based on completion date and relevance. Retained studies were evaluated based on study type and design, stage of completion, and which recommendation they addressed. So for the practice guideline, you can see there's 3.4, 3.5 through 3.8. We didn't use 3.1 through 3.3 because those were already well-established guidelines. Those were your standards down here, which were accepted in the patient care community. And then so we mostly just did 3.4 to 3.8 because those are your newer ones, and we're seeing if these new guidelines were being implemented. So guideline is, there's patient care strategy, which reflects a moderate degree of clinical certainty. And then the option, this is a patient care strategy, which reflects uncertain clinical use. So these were our practice parameters. And these were the amount of relevant cases we found and which level of recommendation they belong in. And then we put them in either a controlled trial, intervention, or case report. And then here's just a summary of like where the cases were collected from. So clinicaltrials.gov had 16 cases. International Clinical Trials Registry Platform had 9, and then PubMed had 26, and the total was 51. So the results of our systematic review, after the screening process, 36 studies were retained for review, 28 were completed with published results, including 19 randomized controlled trials, 8 non-randomized intervention studies, and 1 case report. The majority of the studies addressed more than 1 recommendation and supported the use of behavioral interventions for nighttime wetting. The conclusion, research over the 15 years were consistent and support the general effectiveness of behavioral techniques. However, published research and registered clinical studies have not aligned with research gaps that were identified in the 2006 guidelines. So people weren't focusing on newer issues to study. They were just looking at the older ones that were more well-established. So future research should target the previously identified research gaps as opposed to continuing to replace well-established practices. And those are my reference down there. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.